Yo, here we go again now. Now, I was going to talk about this the other day, but it was just too much gossip. He said, she said, and I really just didn't give a fuck. Nicki Minaj and Joe Budden. And Joe Budden is the type of nigga to go back and forth for the woman. The way I grew up by the OGs, you know, you don't argue with any woman that's not family related or your woman. So if it's not my woman or it's not my mother, my aunt, my sister, if it's not some woman I have an intimate relationship with, I'm not going back and forth with you. I don't care. So I just didn't really give a fuck about that. But this one is a little different. So Rick Ross on Apple of My Eye, he had the bar when he was like, yo, I told Meek I wouldn't trust Nicki. Instead of beefing with your dog, just don't give him distance. So he's saying he doesn't have any issues with Nicki Minaj, but at the same time, he was telling Meek not to trust Nicki, yada yada yada. And it's just funny because now Nicki did the queenradio joint the other day, and she was just airing out everything. You know, she's aired out Joe Budden and she aired out Rick Ross, and she had this to say.
Person in your artist corner when everyone turned their back on them, when everyone was calling them Twitter fingers and cracking up laughing at them, and you had like my nigga, and I'm the one. I went and sat down in a meeting with Obama, President Obama, and Ross was there and texted dude after the meeting and said, yo, this chick is a keeper. I saw the text myself with my own eyes. This chick is a keeper. She went in a room full of rappers and spoke to Obama, and the first thing out of her mouth was about you and figuring out your probation situation and why you're still on probation after all these years. And then you come out on an album when it's time to sell some weak ass fucking album and try to disrespect Nicki Minaj? What? And now you tried to do it. Now you tried to disrespect 50. Tried to hope 50 would respond to your nonsense this time. Boy, sit your fat ass down.
So that was Nicki's response. So, like I say, this is all neutral. I'm not a Nicki Minaj fan, supporter. Never been. That's just not my lane. But she got a point as far as she was the only person with any type of status in the industry that was on Meek's side. Because by default, that was his. It was in a relationship, and she was the only person really that was standing by his side. When Meek went at it with Drake 2-3 years ago, people tend to forget really easy, real fast, how the whole industry turned against Meek Mill. I remember when that shit started, and I was rooting for Meek, hoping that Meek would, rooting for the street guy, the underdog. And, the powers that be and Drake just stomped him out. And the industry turned their whole back against him. People that are cool with Meek now were clowning him. And I'm not talking about just people on social media and fans and big industry cats was clowning Meek. Meek couldn't get a feature most likely because niggas was like, we not standing next to anybody that got a problem with Drake because Drake is the machine. And to me, you can't deny that Nicki's support for Meek. She was there. He was on tour with her, the Pink Print tour or whatever. That was the only person. I felt like she was more supportive of Meek during that time period than his own label owner / partner Rick Ross. I didn't think Rick Ross did enough as far as support for Meek Mill at that point. At that point, you have an investment in Meek Mill as an artist. Where is your support? I didn't see any real support for Meek Mill. For Rick Ross is cool with Drake and Meek Mill. Ross could have sat them niggas down and they could have squashed that shit before it even got to that point. You know what I mean? Ross sat there and let his little brother fight, watched his little brother get his ass whooped, and didn't do anything. In that kind of analogy, basically. You sat there and watched your little brother get his ass beat in the yard, and you didn't do any fucking thing. He got bullied, tormented, ripped apart. And the only reason Meek was able to bounce back, I think going to jail, when Meek Will went to jail, which was fucking wrong as fuck. For popping willies and shit. It took him going to jail for some wrong shit for people to have sympathy for him again. See, sympathy and the rags to riches underdog shit go hand in hand. They had to have sympathy for him. So you had no sympathy for Meek when he was on top of his game and he was on his arrogant shit talking about rollies every 5 minutes and he was dating Nicki Minaj. But once Nicki and him broke up and then he got sent to jail for some dirty shit, it allowed people to have sympathy again for him. And then he comes back home with a clear state of mind. He's more mature. First thing he does, he squashes his beef with Drake. And then he drops the comeback album of the year, probably his best all around album, which was Championships, late to in 2018. And it allows him to have this comeback story. So going to jail for Meek was probably the best thing that happened to him for his career's sake. Because if he doesn't go to jail and doesn't break up with Nicki Minaj, I don't think he's where he's at right now. And right now he's at the peak of his career. So, but you know, you can't deny the fact that Nicki was there the whole time. So I don't know what Ross is gonna say to this. I mean, Ross is still promoting his album. You know, he's using everything he can to get publicity for his joint. But you know, she got a point. Cause who else was down for him? Because I always felt like, damn, I always thought Ross at some point was gonna step in, but he just let Meek out to dry. So that's what it is, man. Hit that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm out.